If you are over 60, there is something I need you to hear very, very clearly. Colon cancer does not always arrive with a dramatic warning. It often walks into a life quietly, wearing the mask of something ordinary. A little constipation, a little tiredness, a little bloating after dinner. And that is exactly why so many older Americans ignore it, until the disease is far more advanced than it should have been. What frightens me is not just colon cancer itself. What frightens me is how often the early signs are mistaken for aging, stress, hemorrhoids, diet changes, or just one of those stomach things. And by the time the truth becomes obvious, precious time has been lost. Before we begin, please subscribe for trusted senior health guidance that protects your future, supports your family, and saves lives. I'm Dr. Michael Joel, and today I'm going to walk you through 10 signs of colon cancer that seniors should never brush aside. Not because every one of these signs means cancer, but because when these signals are ignored, people delay the one thing that can truly protect them: getting evaluated early. And early matters more with colon cancer than most people realize. This disease can develop quietly for years. It can hide behind symptoms that seem harmless. Then one day, the person who thought they only had a touch of indigestion learns they've been carrying something much more serious. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what to watch for, why these signs happen, and why number 4 is the one so many seniors dismiss. Before I show you sign number 10, I need you to understand something essential. Colon cancer does not always start with pain. It does not always cause obvious bleeding, and sometimes it causes no symptoms at all in the beginning. That is why this conversation is so important. You are not listening for dramatic movie-style symptoms. You are listening for patterns, changes, and warnings that stay longer than they should. The body usually whispers before it screams. The tragedy is that many people over 60 have been taught to normalize those whispers. My digestion is slower now. I'm older. Of course I'm tired. It's probably the sandwich I ate. Maybe, but maybe not. And that uncertainty is exactly why these signs deserve respect. Sign number 10 is a new change in bowel habits that lasts more than a few days. Let me tell you about Raymond from Dayton, Ohio. Raymond was 72, retired from the Postal Service, proud of the fact that he almost never went to the doctor. He told everyone his stomach was strong as steel. Then one spring, his bathroom routine changed. Some days he was constipated. Other days he had sudden loose stools. It didn't seem dramatic, just different. He blamed restaurant food. Then he blamed coffee. Then he blamed nerves. Weeks passed. His wife noticed he kept mentioning it, but Raymond laughed it off because the change wasn't constant. It came and went. And that right there is where people get fooled. They think if a symptom is inconsistent, it must be harmless. But the colon does not care what we assume. When a growth begins interfering with the normal movement of stool through the large intestine, the bowel habit can shift in strange ways. One day slower, one day looser, one day almost normal, and then abnormal again. That inconsistency is part of what makes colon cancer so deceptive. Raymond finally got checked when the pattern continued for over a month. The problem was not something he ate, it was a tumor changing how waste moved through his colon. If your body suddenly stops following its old routine, and that change hangs around longer than a few days, pay attention. A lasting change in bowel habits is not something seniors should file under probably nothing, because sometimes that nothing turns out to be the beginning of everything. Sign number 9 is the feeling that you still need to go, even after you just went. Let me tell you about Carol from Mesa, Arizona. Carol was 69, organized, sharp, and careful with her health. But for months she had this strange sensation after using the bathroom. She would stand up, wash her hands, start walking away, and then feel like she needed to go again. Not urgently, just incompletely. Like her body had not finished the job. She thought maybe it was constipation. Then she thought maybe she wasn't drinking enough water. Then she started adjusting her fiber, changing cereals, cutting dairy, trying all the things people try when something feels off but not terrifying. And because she wasn't in severe pain, she let it continue much longer than she should have. That sensation matters more than most people realize. When a tumor sits in part of the colon or rectal area and begins narrowing the passageway or irritating the tissues, it can create the ongoing feeling that stool is still there even when very little remains. The body feels unfinished, unsettled, as though the bowel movement never truly completed. Seniors often describe it as pressure, incomplete emptying, or a nagging urge that won't quite leave. Carol finally brought it up after 3 months, and that one symptom opened the door to the diagnosis. If you keep feeling like you have to go again and again, especially when that sensation is new for you, do not normalize it. Your bowel should not keep sending the same message without a reason. Sign number 8 is stool that suddenly becomes thinner or narrower than usual. Let me tell you about Frank from Columbus, Ohio. Frank was 76 and noticed something he almost didn't mention because it felt too embarrassing. His stools had become narrow, almost ribbon-like at times. Not every day, but often enough that he started quietly wondering about it. He never said a word to his golfing friends. He never brought it up at church. He barely even mentioned it to his daughter. Why? Because people do not like discussing stool shape. It feels awkward. It feels undignified. And that silence costs people dearly. Frank assumed it meant he needed more vegetables. He bought prune juice, blamed his age, and waited. But stool shape can reveal more than people think. If something inside the colon is narrowing the channel that stool has to pass through, the stool may come out thinner than it used to. That does not mean every thin bowel movement equals cancer, because diet and temporary bowel changes can do that too. But when a new narrowing pattern keeps happening, especially along with other symptoms, it deserves evaluation. Frank's thinner stools were not random. They were a clue, one of the earliest visible clues his body offered. If the shape of your bowel movements changes and stays changed, do not dismiss it because it feels awkward to say out loud. The body often tells the truth in ways people would rather avoid discussing. Sign number 7 is ongoing abdominal cramping, bloating, or belly pain that does not behave like ordinary indigestion. Let me tell you about Denise from Nashville, Tennessee. Denise was 71 and had always had a sensitive stomach. So when she began getting cramps after meals and a swollen, bloated feeling across her lower belly, she didn't panic. She thought, this is what happens when you get older. She kept antacids in her purse. She took little walks after dinner. She cut out fried foods. Some evenings were better, some were worse, but the discomfort kept returning. Not sharp enough for the emergency room. Not dramatic enough to stop her daily life. Just annoying, repetitive, and increasingly familiar. And familiar symptoms are dangerous because once something becomes part of your routine, you stop seeing it as a warning. The difference between ordinary digestive upset and something more serious is often persistence. Colon cancer can irritate the bowel, partially block the normal movement of gas and stool, and create pain that lingers or keeps circling back. People often describe it as cramping, pressure, fullness, or bloating that never fully resolves, even when they change what they eat. Denise's discomfort was not from one bad meal. It was her colon trying to tell a story she kept translating the wrong way. If your belly keeps sending distress signals, especially if the discomfort is new, frequent, or paired with bowel changes, do not keep renegotiating with it month after month. Pain that keeps returning is a message, and mature adults ignore that message at their own risk. Sign number 6 is bright red blood on the toilet paper, in the bowl, or coating the stool. Let me tell you about Walter from Tampa, Florida. Walter was 74 and saw small streaks of red blood off and on for weeks. He decided immediately that it had to be hemorrhoids. And to be fair, hemorrhoids are common. That is exactly why this symptom is so dangerous. Because once a person gives it a familiar name, they stop asking deeper questions. Walter bought over-the-counter creams, used wipes, changed his toilet habits, and told himself he already knew the answer. The problem was not that he noticed the blood. The problem was that he explained it away before any doctor had the chance to do it. He diagnosed himself, and self-diagnosis is where many dangerous delays begin. Bright red blood can come from several causes, and yes, hemorrhoids are one of them. but colon and rectal cancers can also bleed, and they do not send a polite announcement ahead of time. When seniors see blood and shrug because they have had hemorrhoids before, they take a real gamble. Walter finally saw a specialist when the bleeding became more regular and was sometimes accompanied by discomfort. The assumption had been wrong. Blood belongs on no part of your toilet routine unless you know exactly why it is there. If you see bright red blood more than once, or you see it with changes in bowel habits, pain, weakness, or weight loss, that is not the moment for guesswork. That is the moment to get checked. Sign number 5 is dark brown, maroon, or black stool. Let me tell you about Elaine from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Elaine was 67 and noticed her stool looked unusually dark for several days. Not bright red, not obvious bleeding, just darker than usual. She wondered if it was something she had eaten. Then she wondered if it was one of her vitamins. Because the color change was subtle, she did what many people do. She watched it. Then she watched it some more. When something is dramatic, people act. When something is vague, they wait. And dark stool is often vague enough to make a person hesitate. Elaine was not weak yet. She was not doubled over in pain. She simply felt that something looked off, and she did not know whether that was worth bothering a doctor about. It was. Dark stool can happen for harmless reasons, yes, but it can also mean blood has been moving through the digestive tract and changing color along the way. That is what makes this sign so unsettling. The bleeding may not look like bleeding at all. It may look like a color shift that seniors are tempted to rationalize, especially if they are not seeing obvious red blood. Elaine eventually mentioned it at an appointment, almost as an afterthought, and that small comment turned into a major investigation. If your stool becomes persistently dark, black, or maroon, and you cannot clearly explain why, do not sit with that uncertainty. Not every color change is cancer, but some are warnings, and they are warnings people miss because they expected something more obvious. Now, before I go further, I need you to notice the pattern developing here. Colon cancer often does not announce itself with one giant symptom. It builds a case out of smaller clues. Clues that people can easily dismiss one by one. A bathroom change here. A little discomfort there. A color difference. A feeling of incomplete emptying. And because no single clue feels overwhelming, the person keeps postponing action. That is why this next sign is so often ignored. It does not even feel like a bowel symptom. It feels like age. It feels like a bad week. It feels like poor sleep. And that is exactly why number 4 catches so many seniors completely off guard. Sign number 4 is unusual fatigue, weakness, dizziness, or shortness of breath that seems to come out of nowhere. Let me tell you about Robert from Kansas City, Missouri. Robert was 79 and started getting tired doing things he had always handled easily. Walking to the mailbox left him winded. Carrying groceries from the car made him sit down halfway through. He said, well, I'm almost 80. Of course I'm slowing down. His family accepted that explanation because it sounded reasonable. He did not have dramatic stomach pain. He did not report heavy visible bleeding. He was simply more tired, more pale, more drained. By afternoon, he felt used up. He started skipping errands. He slept more. And because fatigue is such a common complaint in later life, nobody saw it for what it was. Here is what can happen. Colon cancers sometimes bleed slowly, a little at a time, without producing dramatic visible blood in the toilet. Over time, that hidden blood loss can lead to anemia, meaning your body no longer has enough healthy red blood cells to carry oxygen efficiently. The result is exhaustion, weakness, dizziness, and breathlessness. Even when the person thinks they are just aging. Robert did not have normal old age tiredness. He had a body starved of oxygen because something inside his colon had been bleeding. This is the overlooked sign I worry about most because seniors and families so often normalize it. If your energy drops sharply, if rest does not restore you, if walking across a parking lot suddenly feels harder than it should, do not automatically blame birthdays. Sign number 3 is unexplained weight loss or loss of appetite. Let me tell you about Sharon from Raleigh, North Carolina. Sharon was 68 and had spent years trying to lose weight without much success. Then over a few months, the pounds started coming off almost effortlessly. Friends complimented her. She joked that maybe retirement stress had finally done the trick, but there was something else happening. Something she did not like to admit. Food no longer sounded good. Meals felt more like chores. She got full quickly. Her clothes got looser, yet she was not feeling stronger or healthier. She was feeling flatter, weaker, less interested in eating. But because our culture praises weight loss so automatically, she almost missed the fact that not all weight loss is good news. Unintended weight loss deserves attention, especially in older adults. When the body is battling a disease, appetite can fall. Pain, nausea, bowel changes, inflammation, and hidden bleeding can all contribute. Some people do not realize they are eating less until they look back and notice how much they have stopped finishing meals. Others see the scale drop and assume that something positive is happening. Sharon's weight loss was not a fitness victory. It was a signal that her body was under strain. If pounds are disappearing and you are not trying, or if food suddenly seems unappealing for no clear reason, do not treat that as a lucky break. Healthy weight loss comes with purpose. Unexplained weight loss comes with questions, and those questions need answers. Sign number 2 is nausea, vomiting, belly swelling, or severe constipation that suggests things are not moving through the colon the way they should. Let me tell you about Henry from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Henry was 81 and prided himself on never making a fuss. When he became severely constipated and his stomach started swelling, he assumed it would pass. Then came the nausea. Then the vomiting. By the time his daughter convinced him to go to the hospital, he was miserable. He kept saying he must have a stomach bug, but stomach bugs usually do not build week after week with worsening constipation, distension, and repeated vomiting. Henry's problem was that his bowel was struggling to move things along. Something was physically interfering with the flow, and that possibility is exactly why this sign can be so serious. A tumor can narrow the inside of the colon enough to create a partial blockage. When that happens, waste, liquid, and gas have trouble passing normally. The result can be severe bloating, cramping, constipation, nausea, and vomiting. This is not a subtle inconvenience, and when it becomes intense or persistent, it can turn into an emergency. Henry needed urgent care because the body can only tolerate so much pressure and backup before the situation becomes dangerous. If you or someone you love has worsening belly swelling, cannot move the bowels normally, feels sick to the stomach repeatedly, or starts vomiting with abdominal pain, do not wait for a better day. That is not the time for home remedies. That is the time for prompt medical attention. And now we come to sign number 1, the most shocking one of all, because sometimes the first major clue is not in the bathroom. It is in your blood work. Let me tell you about Patricia from Sacramento, California. Patricia was 73, disciplined, reliable, the kind of woman who never missed her annual physical. She did not think she had colon symptoms, no dramatic pain, no obvious crisis, just a little more tired than usual, but nothing she considered alarming. Then her doctor called and said her hemoglobin had dropped. Her iron was low, she was anemic. Patricia was surprised because she was eating reasonably well and had no idea she was losing blood anywhere. That phone call, not a bathroom scare, was the moment her cancer journey truly began. A lab value spoke before her symptoms did. This is why routine blood work can matter so much in older adults. Sometimes colon cancer bleeds slowly and invisibly. You may not see red blood. You may not notice dark stools, but over time the body keeps the score. The red blood cell count falls. The hemoglobin drops. Iron stores shrink. And the person ends up with mysterious anemia that is not mysterious at all, once someone looks in the right place. Patricia's abnormal labs led to further testing, and the real answer was found. So if your doctor tells you that your blood count is low, or your iron has fallen for no clear reason, do not shrug and promise to eat more spinach. In seniors, unexplained anemia is not just a number. It can be the earliest alarm bell of a hidden colon problem. Now, I need to say something important because this is where fear can take over. Not every one of these symptoms means colon cancer. Hemorrhoids can bleed. Infections can change bowel habits. Certain foods and medicines can darken stool. Stress can upset digestion. Ordinary constipation exists, so please do not leave this video convinced that every stomach cramp is a disaster. But the opposite mistake is even more dangerous. The opposite mistake is assuming every warning sign has a harmless explanation without proving it. The goal is not panic. The goal is respect. Respect for symptoms that persist. Respect for changes that are new. Respect for the body when it starts breaking its own routine. That is how smart adults protect themselves without living in fear. Here is the rule I want you to remember. If a bowel symptom is new, unexplained, and lasts more than a few days, it has earned your attention. If blood appears, it has earned your attention immediately. If fatigue is worsening without a reason, if weight is dropping unexpectedly, if the stool is changing shape or color, if the belly keeps hurting or swelling, those are not symptoms to monitor for a few months. Those are symptoms to discuss with a medical professional. And if severe pain, vomiting, heavy bleeding, faintness, or signs of blockage show up, that becomes urgent. I have seen far too many seniors wait because they did not want to be a burden, did not want to overreact, or did not want bad news. Delay does not protect you from bad news. It only protects the disease. Let me tell you about one more person, because this is the part I hope stays with you. George from Fort Wayne, Indiana, was 77. He noticed blood once and ignored it. Then he got more tired. Then he started losing weight. Then his stools changed. Every symptom came with an explanation. Hemorrhoids, age, stress, bad food, poor sleep. He had an answer for everything, except the truth. By the time he finally got checked, the problem had grown far beyond where it had started. What breaks my heart is not just that George had cancer. It is that his body had tried again and again to warn him, and every warning was talked down, minimized, or postponed. That happens in homes across America every single day, and it does not need to. The good news, and there is good news here, is that colon cancer is one of the cancers where early action can change everything. When precancerous growths are found early, they can often be removed before cancer fully develops. When cancer is caught earlier, treatment is usually simpler, outcomes are better, and families are spared a great deal of suffering. That is why I do these videos, because seniors deserve more than vague reassurance. You deserve clear information that helps you act, while action still has the power to change the story. Listening to your body is not paranoia. It is wisdom. Speaking up about symptoms is not weakness. It is self-respect. And getting screened or evaluated is not inviting trouble into your life. Sometimes it is the very thing that keeps trouble from taking over. So let me leave you with the full picture. Watch for lasting changes in bowel habits. Watch for the feeling that the bowel never fully empties. Watch for narrowing of the stool. Watch for recurring cramps, bloating, and belly pain. Watch for bright red blood. Watch for dark or black stool. Watch for unusual fatigue. Watch for unexplained weight loss. Watch for nausea, vomiting, or swelling that suggests blockage. And please, pay attention to unexplained anemia on blood tests. These are not random little inconveniences when they persist. They are messages, some harmless, some serious, but all deserving of respect. If this video helped you, subscribe to the channel and share it with someone over 60 today. One sibling, one neighbor, one spouse, one friend from church, one veteran you care about, one retired coworker. Because the person who needs this message most is often the one saying, I'm sure it's nothing. And sometimes that sentence becomes the most expensive mistake of all. Take care of yourself, take changes seriously, and I'll see you in the next video.